Your journey, our passion.
You're listening to the Paul W. Smith Show on News Talk 760 WJR.
You know, along with being the Motor City, it's Motown. This is where Motown was born. Turn that music up, Brian, back at the Golden Tower of the Fisher Building. Has anybody said that the revival of the auto industry actually started in a big way with a piece of music? Have they tied that together? It's this music for the commercial that played in the Super Bowl that grabbed our attention, but more importantly, grabbed the nation's attention. And we've been proud ever since, Sergio, and I know you had to give your blessings for this to happen.
Yeah, it wasn't easy at the time.
I'm sure it wasn't.
In hindsight, it was a brilliant idea.
Well, Sergio Marchionne has made many brilliant decisions, and not just in hindsight. And you came into this town so quiet. I remember the first time that I met you, because it was so hard to get to meet you, that in fact, Link Besher, one of our top account executives right here, saw you walking in a hallway, knew that I was in the men's room. Luckily, I happened to be washing my hands, and he came in and said, "Sergio's walking by." I ran out of the men's room with my hands up in the air and said, "Mr. Marchionne," or then I was calling him Mr. Marchionne. "Mr. Marchionne, Mr. Marchionne." And you went to shake my hand. I said, "I just came out of the men's room and my hands are wet." And he looked at me and said, "So this is a Detroit radio talk show host, is it?" Well, as it turns out, I had just washed my hands, and we did eventually shake hands.
Before we get started here.
What is going on?
Saturday, I understand, I know you've been trying to keep this quiet, but I understand you got engaged.
I did.
And
Boy, there are no secrets on the Paul W. Smith Show.
No, but I don't know Kim, and I will meet her eventually at the right time.
I'm not sure. You might have met her. You know,
I may have met her, but I don't know her as of now.
Okay, right.
And certainly I don't know her as your fiancée.
Of course.
So I decided to give her a sort of an initiation gift into your new life together, because she needs to be sweetened up. These are the best Italian chocolates that I could find.
Aren't you?
And so if you can just give them to her on my behalf, on behalf of Chrysler, and wish her the best and wish you both the best.
I will do that. Thank you, Sergio,
Thank you
so very much on behalf of Kim Geisinger. And we're looking to a world of happiness. And I thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome.
You have some great things going on here. How do we get any better than a headline like that? Chrysler to add 1,100 workers at the Jefferson North plant. There are other additions that you're planning on. You've got people talking about the things that you're doing and going to do. I've never heard so much talk up of the new Dart. And Nolan Finley, the editorial page editor of the Detroit News, talking about that. Exciting because it goes back to his childhood, if you will, or when he wanted a car, or maybe it was his first car, I think he said or told us. You knew that Jeep was this fabulous, iconic brand that had been kind of fallen off by the wayside and not been treated properly. And now, though you worked a deal with the government, and now Fiat and you own Chrysler and run Chrysler, the government probably thought you were going to come out and do it with Fiat-style small cars. And it's just a little ironic that the big comeback are the big vehicles. I mean, it's a good thing.
But we knew this. I mean, we knew that we couldn't. I mean, we need to distinguish between small architectures and fuel efficiency. I think one of the things that we've brought to Chrysler pretty quickly was a very clear understanding of the downsizing effort that's going on in engines, and the fact that we needed to continue to develop our powertrain strategy to increase substantially the fuel efficiency of the pool of cars that we're making. It was not a reflection of the size of the vehicle. We didn't want to turn the whole country into a Fiat 500 club. I still think that the Jeep brands, the larger cars, are going to constitute the biggest portion of the American market. I mean, if you look at the C and D segments, the Dart being a C, the Chrysler 200 being a D segment, and then all the SUVs associated with those segments, they account for more than half of the American market. That is not going to change.
I think
we need to get smarter in terms of building these cars, making them lighter and making them much more efficient than they've been.
I think one of the smartest things you did was simply say, Chrysler is an American car company, and we understand that, and we're going to let Chrysler be Chrysler.
Yeah, and it should be. And we're not going to change it. I mean, it's impossible. And I don't want to. I mean, I'll tell you, apart from the fact that I'm falling in love with the city, but...
Are you really? I mean, you live in a lot of cities. I mean, you live on an airplane, but you live in a lot of beautiful cities. Are you really falling in love with Detroit? Somehow, I don't think you would just say that to me.
No, I wouldn't. And I would be... I mean, I made the comment. There's nothing that Detroit needs to apologize about. I think it's a great town. And I think the three Detroit car companies here, and what they've shown over the last probably 24 months, and in the case of Ford, probably longer, they've shown a great degree of resilience. I mean, they've shown the true American spirit of what has made this country what it is today. And I think we need to go back to some basic fundamental ways. And this industry has learned. I think we've learned how to do this business right. I think none of us, and I watch this like a hawk. I watch discounts and I watch how our competitors are behaving. I can tell you it's the most, they're the most commercially sensible processes that I've seen in this industry in a long time. Mm-hmm. It's being done naturally by people who understand that we're here for the long run and that we cannot destroy either the brand equity or the pricing power or the margin authority that we've got with some of these businesses. So I'm pleased, and I think that we're all. And I made a couple of comments to some journalists this morning. When you walk around here, forget about the Dart. I think that's an important car to Chrysler. But the level of optimism that's going on at the Detroit Auto Show is a unique event. It's something that I've not felt in this environment for the last 10 years. And you have to go back to the 90s to feel this level of excitement. And I think as long as we stay humble and enjoy this with humility.
I'm so glad that you said that, because there have been times where we've had these ups and we kind of forget to do good business practice and good smart things.
No, I've said this publicly. The failure that we had here in the system in 2008 and 2009 has indelibly changed the DNA of the automakers. I don't think there's anybody out there who doesn't remember the pain and the suffering that we went through. And I can tell you our leadership team is mindful of this continuously. And I think every decision that we make now has got that as a background.
But what you have now at Chrysler, Sergio, and by the way, it is Marchionne, and my Italian friends jump all over me every time I say it.
It's Marchionne.
It's Marchionne. Everybody, journalists, it is Marchionne. So don't always call me and tell me, hey, you idiot, it's Marchionne or it's Marchionne. He told me
it's Marchionne.
A long while ago it's Sergio Marchionne. That's what
official.
I call him.
It's official. It's
okay.
Marchionne.
All right. And you, along with Alan Mullally, Bill Ford, along with Dan Ackerson, the newest guy, I think, in the position, are responsible for this and working very closely with UAW and understanding that they're an important part of all of this. And as I said in the past to Mr. King, and I say to you, and I said, it's a we-win situation. Yep. It can't be we win and you lose. It doesn't work that way. And one of the things that caused a great stir, one of the last times we talked at least face-to-face, Sergio, was about trying to get rid of the two-tier pay system. What's the latest? You know how that people reacted to that. What's the latest on that?
Look, the only comment that I made, and I think some people misinterpreted what I was trying to say, I wasn't trying to reduce Tier 2 wages. That's not the attempt here, or to try and bring Tier 1s down to Tier 2s. You can't have, and it's the most undemocratic principle that we live in today. It's this whole notion of having people doing similar jobs on the line and getting paid differentiated wages. I mean, it's almost offensive. And I think we need to find a way in which we can make these two classes of workers converge. And the only way we can do this there's a very simple solution to this, which I think we need to continue to work with the UAW on, is that we need to grandfather the Tier 1s. And we got to say, look, this is a class that will eventually run its course. And the Tier 2s are going to become the ongoing, the continuing build of workers of the American auto industry. And under a set of circumstances, these Tier 2 workers need to make more money than a Tier 1 would have made legitimately, consistently, whether we made money or not made money. I would like to get our workers to feel wealthy. It can only be done if the company does well. And we need to connect these two concepts. We need to connect wage rates to profitability of the house. If we do well, I think it's a wealth that should be shared and it should be enjoyed not just by the shareholders. I think that there's a way in which we can pass that on and make our workers participate. That's all I said. And I think that given the time limitations that we had on this round of negotiations, it would have been impossible, I think, to try and get a deal that revolutionary through. I'm hopeful that we're going to get that done at around the time of the renewal. It's possible that we may even be able to tackle it earlier. I'm hopeful, but certainly there's a willingness on my part to look at this without restrictions. We care about what happens to those tier twos, and I think that we need to resolve this dilemma that they live in all the time of looking people across the line and saying, why are you different? They're not different, and I think they're reflective of an accommodation that was made in a particular point in time, which I don't think is relevant anymore.
Sergio Marchionne, running Chrysler, running Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and all the different things that you're involved with. Congratulations, and God bless you on taking on now the United Way, and to be the chairman of the United Way. That's an amazing thing. For a guy who truly is working in a lot of different countries and living on planes and all of that, that's a tremendous commitment, and I salute you for that.
No, it's important. I think that we have watched and I spent some time now over the last 6 months with the United Way people here in Detroit. I think that there's been a lot of change that the structure has carried out. Some of the initiatives that they've now tabled and the way in which they've approached them, and the whole notion of accountability and progress and being able to measure the impact that these initiatives are having is crucial to the process. In my role, obviously, for time limitations, also because of skill sets. I mean, I have limited use, as they say. But some of the things that I can do...
I think you're going to do okay, though.
But some of the things that I can do is trying to bring in other CEOs into the process, other people like me, and to get organizations to commit to the project. It's a worthwhile project. Detroit deserves it. Chrysler needs to be behind it. We have always felt the need to participate at Chrysler. We want to make this official, and we want to make it a lot more important than it's been.
What have you learned from the rollout of the Fiat 500 that you'll use when you roll out the Alfa Romeo?
Which is one of the reasons why I think we have been incredibly cautious about Alfa. We have realized two things. One, that at the time, and I say this in all honesty, in the scheme of things, back in 2008 and 2009, when we were crafting the plan to bring Chrysler out of its predicament, the relevance of Fiat in the structure of the Fiat 500 was perhaps overblown. What was much more important is that we brought the engine here, and you will see it on the stand today when we launched the Dodge Dart. It's powered by a 1.4-liter multi-air turbo, which is what sits in the Fiat 500. That technology transfer was crucial. The fact that we industrialized the engine at Dundee here in the States was important. The Fiat 500 was a way for us to get back in with an Italian iconic car into the marketplace. The 50,000 number that was kicked around was a gross approximation of what we thought the car would do. And I'm not defending the error. I wear it. It's my mistake. But when you look at the competitor class, you look at the Mini, it's never made 50,000 in this car. And so we may have been totally overly optimistic about what the car will do, and effectively when we get together with the analysts in January, we're going to revise the early numbers for the Fiat 500. The great thing about the investment is that for Chrysler it's safe, because the investment was made in Mexico and was made to deal with both Latin American and North American requirements. So the car is also going down to Brazil and to Argentina. We're also shipping the car out to China now. So the plant and the investment are safe. We've safeguarded the investment that was made down there, and we've also made that engine technology available to the U.S. architectures. And so the Dodge Dart is going to benefit from the Fiat 500 anyway, which is where I wanted. But what it taught us is that when you bring a new brand into the country, you better have the dealer network ready.
Sure.
And so we launched, the car went into production in January of 2011. And the network didn't get filled out until, at least in terms of adequate numbers, until the fourth quarter of this year. So you got to be very careful when you do them. And I know the dealers that have committed are going to be rewarded for the investment they made in the brand, because we're going to turn this into the Italian corner, including Alfa. So when Alfa comes, it will complete the Fiat lineup, which by then will have more than the Fiat 500. There's another car coming at the end of this year, which you will see hopefully in Geneva and will be brought back in Detroit next year.
Well, because of you, we'll be in Geneva, and I thank you for this beautiful set, this studio here at the North American International Auto Show on WJR Detroit, and for the Geneva and Paris and whatever other shows that we've got, and your sponsorship, your leadership.
And you're surrounded by great cars.
I am surrounded by great cars, and we're surrounded by great people, including the author, Jennifer Clark, who wrote the book on the Fiat, Chrysler, and the power of a dynasty, and she's going to join us tomorrow. And you're like the whole last chapter on saving these companies. Don't let it go to your head.
No, I didn't. She asked me whether I read the book, and I told her I read it in parts. It's one way to avoid getting it.
I'm thinking he read the parts where you could see his name.
No, I read the parts that had nothing to do with me. Those are the more interesting things.
I do believe that. I do believe that, Sergio. Thank you for everything.
Oh,
God bless. Happy New Year.
And to you.
Happy car show, and good luck to you and all of those hardworking men and women at Chrysler and Fiat, and Alfa Romeo, and whatever else you end up doing.
Ferrari and Maserati.
Oh, yeah, I forgot those other little cars, Ferrari and Maserati, yeah.
Well, you'll see the Kubag being launched here tomorrow.
All right, we'll look for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thanks.
We continue on the Paul W. Smith Show at WJR. My goodness, it's 10 minutes after 8.
We're all resolving